Hello again, everybody. Welcome into Last Minute Thoughts. Doing it a little bit differently on this Saturday. Vanderbilt travels to Gainesville to face off with the Florida Gators. 3 o'clock kickoff on the SEC Network. And as you can see, Joey Dwyer reporting live from the swamp at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium down in Gainesville. It looks like a beautiful day down there, Joey. And who better than you to report live from Gainesville? I know we were talking before you got on. It feels like it's going to be a good atmosphere today. Vanderbilt's going to have to deal with a lot of noise down there today, but this is SEC, man. This is a legit SEC atmosphere down there.
Yeah, this is awesome, Billy. This is the SEC personified. You go 10 miles from the stadium, and it feels like there's 20 tailgates on the street. And you can't even get the car near the stadium here, Billy. This is something else. There's an extra deck on this thing, and Vanderbilt's going to have to be ready for it. Vanderbilt hasn't played in an environment like this. We were at Wake Forest, where it was a decent environment, but wasn't anywhere near an SEC environment. UNLV wasn't quite that either, although it was in a big stadium. This is the real test for Vanderbilt today. You see there's an extra deck on this thing, like I said, and it'll be full. I think this will be pretty close to a sellout, if not a sellout. Vanderbilt's going to have to bring its A game, and as a 19.5-point underdog, you'd think that's what it's going to take to win. So Vanderbilt's going to have to bring it today, like I said a few times, but it's hard to kind of overstate. Vanderbilt has to be about perfect to win the ball game today.
Yeah, let's hop into it, Joey. Pete Thamel of ESPN has reported that Ken Seals will start today, as expected. I think I told you that earlier this week. Chris had told me that earlier this week. So I think, as expected, Ken Seals will start. They're still a little concerned with A.J. Swann's health. I don't know how true that is. I still think we might see A.J. Swann today some, right? Especially if Seals struggles, and especially if Seals gets banged up. You'll probably have to throw Swann out there. Another thing to watch, do we see Walter Taylor today? So it's official. Ken Seals will start, Joey, and I think that's something to watch because Ken Seals last week, it was a cleaner, more efficient operation, but Vanderbilt wasn't as explosive in the passing game. So it'll be interesting to see how Ken Seals adjust to this road environment. He started on the road before, but it's been a while. He's going to have to shake the rust off. I thought it was interesting, though. It's official today. Ken Seals will start.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to have a veteran kind of coming into this moment. I think maybe that's where Vanderbilt's better suited at this point with some of the mistakes that A.J. Swann has made. Ken Seals seems to be the steady, composed guy. We've talked about that a lot, but Ken Seals also has to be a guy who they can trust with the offense today. And you'd hope that he'd see more of the playbook today than he did last week against Missouri. It felt like he was really protected through a lot of that game. And what I'm watching for in terms of Ken Seals is how much is he able to air it out? And when he is able to air it out, is he able to take advantage of that, and is Vanderbilt able to capitalize on some of those breakdowns in coverage and make some of those big plays? Ken Seals' performance will probably come down to 3 or 4 big throws. If he can make them, Vanderbilt's in this game. If he can't, Vanderbilt probably is not in this game. Vanderbilt's really going to have to help him out with the run game, with its offensive line play in this game as well. We talked about that all season, but feels especially true today, especially against the defensive front like Florida's. Vanderbilt's going to have to help Ken Seals out a lot. And also, Ken Seals has to help himself out a lot when Vanderbilt calls plays for him that show trust in him. He has to be able to build on that trust and kind of get Vanderbilt's offense moving. As for the backup, I would assume it's probably A.J. Swann. I don't know how healthy he is, but it feels like he's kind of getting ramped up slowly bit by bit. Walter Taylor kind of feels like he's back in the third string role. So Swann, I think, would be the backup naturally, but you're hoping that you don't have to get there if Seals can kind of conduct the offense like you really hope he can in an environment like this.
Obviously, A.J. Swann is still banged up, Joey, from what Pete Thamel reported. We know Kane Patterson is out today. It'll be interesting to see who else is out today for Vanderbilt. But for Florida, on the Gators side of things, it's official. They've got 3 of their offensive players out. Trevor Etienne, their running back, is out today. They've also got 2 offensive linemen out. Left tackle Austin Barber and center Kingsley Iguacan are both out for Florida. So it'll be interesting to watch today. Can Vanderbilt stop the run? But we know Florida has another great running back right behind Trevor Etienne, Montrell Johnson, who you said earlier, I think I saw it on the board, he's better than any of the running backs Vanderbilt's got, and he's Florida's backup. So a big question today, can Vanderbilt stop the run? They're helped out a little bit. They got a break with Etienne out and 2 offensive linemen. That's one thing I'm watching, Joey. Can Vanderbilt stop the run? They really haven't been able to do it most of this season, especially last week against Missouri. I know they held Ray Davis in check, but this Florida team wants to run the football. Their quarterback, Graham Mertz, will run the football as well. For Vanderbilt to have any chance, they have to stop the run, especially better than they did last week.
Absolutely, Billy. And it feels like this game could kind of turn into what Wake Forest was. Wake Forest was missing its starting back and ran all over Vanderbilt. I'm not super confident in this point that Vanderbilt can stop the run, but it'll be a huge test today. Maybe helped out more so by the back being out than the linemen, but the linemen are going to be a huge thing as well. I think Vanderbilt maybe can finally get some pass rush today. Florida's going to do a lot of quick hitters, a lot in the intermediate passing game, and I think that hurts Vanderbilt a bit just because it won't quite have the time to protect itself. So it'll be interesting to see, can Vanderbilt tackle in space and can Vanderbilt stop the run? I'm not entirely confident in either of those things based on what we've seen previously, but it feels like Vanderbilt could kind of take a step forward here and could be benefited by some of the things that Florida is missing. Although Florida's running back is probably still the best running back on the field, probably one of the biggest playmakers on the field still. Vanderbilt does have an advantage. Florida not having one of the best backs in the league. Certainly something to watch for, and I think something that could help Vanderbilt. Got to do it, though, Billy. It doesn't matter how many injuries there are. You got to get better play from the D-line. You got to get better play from the secondary. And with Vanderbilt missing some linebackers as well, I'm not entirely confident that it can stop the run, but certainly seems like they have a better chance to do that than they did, say, a day and a half ago.
Obviously, that's a matchup we're watching, Joey. Vanderbilt's front seven, the interior of that defensive line, the linebackers, especially with Kane Patterson out, Nick Rinaldi, Brian Longwell, Bryce Cowan are guys that are going to have to step up. Langston Patterson as well. We know Ethan Barr has been there all season long, especially the past few years under Clark Lee's program. But another matchup I'm watching, and I talked about this with Gator David Waters on the pregame show, is Vanderbilt's secondary. Florida's secondary, actually, right? So Florida's secondary against Vanderbilt's receivers. Let's flip it. Vanderbilt got the receivers. We know that, Joey. Will Sheppard, London Humphreys. We'll see if he's able to go today. I know he's questionable, at least right now, but Junior Sherrill showed out against Missouri with his touchdown. Nice piece written by you, of course, earlier this week. And Vanderbilt has another guy like a Jaden McGowan who hasn't really done much the last couple of weeks. So flip it over to Vanderbilt's offense with their receivers. It feels like they're going to have a big day if they want to stay in this ball game today. And Florida's corners have been suspect at times. And Gator Dave mentioned that. He said that's a matchup he's watching. Florida's secondary against Vandy's receivers, because that is how I think at the end of the day, Joey, Vandy probably wins this game. Ken Seals airing it out to the receivers. We didn't see a ton of that last week, but late in the game we did. Junior Sherrill touchdown, Will Sheppard touchdown. So can Vanderbilt's receivers get open consistently against a Florida secondary that has been shaky at times?
That's a matchup that Vanderbilt has to be kind of intentional about exploiting. I don't know that Vanderbilt has done that as much in the past as it probably should have, especially last week. You saw Will Sheppard's dad on Twitter saying that he didn't get the ball soon enough in the game, and you saw good things happen when he did. I think he's right there. Vanderbilt has to get Will Sheppard involved early. If London Humphreys is ready, he's got to get the ball early. Jaden McGowan has to have the ball in his hands, same with Junior Sherrill. Those are Vanderbilt's playmakers. It's not the running backs to this point. It's not been the tight ends. Vanderbilt's receivers are its playmakers, and it has to be intentional about distributing the ball around well to them. Ken Seals, all he really has to do today is be a game manager. He has to get the ball in Will Sheppard's hands. He has to make one or two fantastic throws today. The rest is all just about distributing to Vanderbilt's playmakers. Can he do that? I'm not quite sure in this environment against this defense. It's also going to be on the play calling, though. Can Vanderbilt find a way to get those guys involved early? Can Vanderbilt find a way to get those guys in space? I think Joey Lynch is going to have a big job today if Vanderbilt wants to have any chance in this game. And Vanderbilt's receivers are going to be kind of what pushes this team over the edge. We've known it's had the explosive passing game all year. Can it prove that on probably the biggest stage it's played in all year? We'll see, Billy.
Lastly here, Joey, to wrap it up, live from the swamp, I am going to say the biggest key for Vanderbilt today is to win the turnover margin. They have not won the turnover battle at all this season. We talk about that every week. I think Vanderbilt has to create takeaways, and they have to get points off of those takeaways, right? You can force turnovers, but if you don't get points off of them, or if you're getting field goals, that's not really doing you any good. So I think for Vanderbilt, if you look up in the fourth quarter and they're in this ball game and it's competitive, I think it's because they've created takeaways and they've gotten touchdowns off of those takeaways. I think today that's my biggest key. Joey, what's your biggest key?
I think just getting breaks, Billy. Throughout a lot of the year, it's felt like even against the better opponents
Unlucky.
where Vanderbilt's got blown out, it's been breaks that haven't bounced Vanderbilt's way. Vanderbilt's got to get a little bit lucky today. And I think its playmakers are going to help them kind of get closer to Florida in this game. Some of its defense and maybe some of Florida's injuries will keep it in the game if that's the case. But it's got to get a little lucky. It's got to hit on a deep ball here or there. It's got to get a timely penalty going in its favor. it's got to get a turnover here or there that it can run back and create points with. So Vanderbilt, I think, has to be able to get a little lucky today, and that's what it really takes in an environment like this. Its receivers are going to be a focal point. Can it stop the run? That's a focal point. Can it limit the explosive plays defensively? I'm pretty optimistic that they can against this offense, but we'll see. Florida still has some playmakers all over the field, even if they're not going to throw it like Missouri did last week, and Missouri is right now, frankly. But Vanderbilt has a chance here if it can get lucky and if it can play mistake-free football, like you said. Those are both things that I'm not super confident in at this point. But it's a new day, Billy, and a new quarterback for Vanderbilt, at least in the last 2 weeks. So Ken Seals, I think, is the guy who I'd want out of there for this week for Vanderbilt. Sorry, that was poor speech there. But Ken Seals is the guy I would trust here. Can Vanderbilt really build a full performance? We haven't seen it yet this year, and I'm not sure it can happen today again. But big game for Vanderbilt to kind of get back on track. If not, it's 5 straight losses, and you're kind of back to a point where you're doubting everything.
Two teams that are unhappy. Who wants it more today down in Gainesville? Joey Dwyer reporting live from the swamp in sunny Florida. It looks like it's a little bit cooler up here in Nashville, Joey, but looking forward to it, and thanks for checking in live.
Yeah, thank you, Billy. Looking forward to the post-game show and looking forward to maybe having some positive vibes today. We'll see. Probably going to be negative, but if Vanderbilt can at least cover that 19.5, we'll see if the fan base is any more happy with the performance than it was last week. I'm not sure. I don't know if this has been acceptable thus far, but Vanderbilt has a chance to kind of turn the tables here and maybe show that they want it more than Florida, who's also got us back against the wall after a rough loss.
Yeah, Florida's coming off a bad loss last week against Kentucky. Former Vanderbilt running back Ray Davis ran all over them. We'll see if Vanderbilt can do a similar thing this week with their running backs. We haven't seen that all season. Vanderbilt looking for their 3rd win of the season, their first SEC win. For Joey Dwyer, I'm Billy Derrick. Thanks for checking in for another edition of Last Minute Thoughts.